One of the hardest things to do when it comes to making a series is to have a jerk character, but have them be likable. We see this a lot in adult animation where all the characters are nasty, horrible, evil villains, and sure enough, that's exactly how the audience sees them. We don't like them, we don't care about them, we don't want to follow them, and because of that, the show falls through. But there's one show that manages to do this right, to make a monster of a character, but have him be extremely endearing and quite charming at times. It's Dan from Dan Vs. I gotta say, Dan Vs. is one of the most unappreciated animated shows out there. It premiered on The Hub, where you were either My Little Pony Friendship is Magic or nothing. Even bigger shows like Transformers Prime are always overshadowed by The Pony Show. That's always how it was. And as you can well imagine, Dan Vs. met the same fate, though that's a topic for another day. Another day we call Versus the Network. Hint, hint. I'm not here today to talk about how Dan Vs. got screwed over. I'm here to talk about how Dan Vs. was a diamond in the rough. So when you think of The Hub, what kind of programming do you think of? Well, you think of bright, happy, cheerful, joyous, kid-friendly. All of these things are not how to describe Dan Vs. Dan Vs. is dark, cynical, slice of life, and definitely not for kids. We'll touch on that later. Dan Vs. is about this guy named Dan. We don't know his last name, in fact we don't know anybody's last name, but we gotta roll with that. He lives in a crappy apartment in the middle of downtown LA, and everything makes him mad. And I mean everything. Traffic, baseball, New Mexico, Canada, his own best friend Chris. Whenever Dan gets angry at something, he shouts to the heavens, vowing revenge. And he goes above and beyond to get his revenge on things that, in all honesty, most normal people wouldn't really care about. But Dan is anything but normal. He's explosive, he's angry, he's edgy, he's filthy and proud of it. He's lazy and has no life ambitions aside from exacting revenge. So how did they get this character to be likable? Two things. One, we see many times that Dan isn't entirely irredeemable. For example, in the episode where he's bothered by the animal shelter behind him making all this noise, he's gonna go blow it up. But not only does he set all the animals free before he does it, he even adopts a cat, who he names Mr. Mumbles. Though later he finds out that Mr. Mumbles is actually a female and doesn't change her name. Still though, Dan takes the cat in and falls in love with her. Not in that way. Trust me, we don't need that in a show like this. Dan treats Mr. Mumbles like she's his own kid. He never blows up at her, and even when he gets annoyed, he always forgets it a minute later. And at times he's even shown to have some good connections with Chris, and very rarely Chris's wife Elise. Don't worry, we'll get to them soon. But another way that Dan is a likable character is that he's so over the top with his anger. He's not a bully or a brute. He's this insane maniac who goes to unbelievable lengths to destroy the smallest of inconveniences. And the thing is, nobody's really scared of him. Even Chris, of all people, the guy who's always dragged along on his wacky misadventures, isn't scared of Dan in any way. Many times we see Chris openly mock Dan, or say things about Dan that he doesn't appreciate, or say that he won't help out with his plans. Unless you're Dan's target of revenge for the week, you have no reason to fear the guy. But even if you are the aforementioned target of revenge, it's still a little hard to be afraid of Dan given how over the top he is. There's something charming about his character where no matter how nasty or devilish or underhanded he could be, we always end up rooting for him. Sometimes it's because he goes after the little things that bother us too, like traffic or the common cold. Or sometimes his theories are so outlandish and insane, like in the Wolfman episode, but he turns out to be right. And it's not some kind of trope like Mrs. Beatty from Back in the Barnyard where everyone thinks Dan is crazy, but he and he alone knows that he's right and no one ever believes him. No, when he finds out the truth, everyone finds out right alongside him. And right next to Dan, always there to learn those bits of horrible truth, is Dan's best friend, Chris. I like Chris a lot because of how subversive he is. In any other show, he'd be the wacky, stupid sidekick that pals around with Dan and takes all of his abuse. Chris is anything but. Yeah, he's a little hyperactive and childish, but he's not stupid. His big issue is that he keeps getting caught up in the moment with little things, like enjoying junk food or going above and beyond to please his in-laws who hate his guts. He means well though, and has a really good head on his shoulders. He's far from stupid. Dan, if anything, is the dumb one of this duo. This is because, unlike Dan, Chris has street smarts and actually knows how the world works. He's able to be a functional member of society, for the most part, have a good life, a wife, and everything else that Dan has no hopes of getting. Even so, he is a pushover, a real doormat. Though he has every possible opportunity and choice to let Dan do everything on his own, he can't help but follow him along because, well, he's Dan's only friend. It's shown that Chris feels bad for Dan a lot of the time, but that doesn't mean he's above throwing snide comments Dan's way every so often. After all, he's gotta show Dan that he's not afraid, but still loyal in the end. And rounding out our cast is Chris's wife, Elise. Some fans don't really like Elise too much. To be honest, I don't really know why. Yeah, the whole spy angle doesn't entirely fit with the show, but I feel that later on they learned how to integrate it pretty well. And she's an interesting enough character to the point where if she appears in an episode, which, she always does, I don't mind seeing her. Partially because her interactions with Dan are just as on par with the ones that Chris has with him. Chris may not be afraid of Dan, but Elise is super not afraid. If anything, Dan's afraid of Elise. Elise is everything Dan isn't. Calm, composed, sophisticated, and unnaturally smart. Though Chris can be a bit goofy at times, it's shown that she really cares for him and he cares for her. Their marriage is very compelling, but she wants to keep it that way, and she sees Dan as an obstacle. After all, he keeps throwing Chris into harm's way and many times almost killing him or getting him sent to jail. Needless to say, she is not shy about sharing her negative feelings to Dan, and he's not afraid of sharing his negative feelings towards her. Whenever the two interact, it's basically a tug of war for Chris's loyalty. Is Chris gonna stand by and help Elise out or spend time with her? Or is he gonna go help Dan do whatever Dan does? As I'm sure you can imagine, with well-rounded and interesting characters like these, this show contains some amazing writing. Whether it be over-the-top and bombastic or the characters hanging out and talking about random stuff, it's always fun, it's always endearing, and it's always funny. Especially because of the audience it's aiming for. See, The Hub was a family channel, right? Often geared for, let's be honest, younger kids. They had shows like Strawberry Shortcake, Pound Puppies, Care Bears, and more. Let me tell you, Dan vs. does not belong amongst those. Would any other Hub series have an episode where a character walks around with an open wound on their face throughout half of it? Would any other Hub series have sexual innuendo so obvious that it would make Animaniacs blush? Would any other Hub series have so much talk of violence and sometimes even on-screen violence to the point where you wonder, is this really for families? And my personal favorite, would any other Hub series have this line?
You filthy whore!
That's not an edit. That's actually in one of the episodes. To be specific, Dan vs. the Wedding. There's other little things too, like how all the women are drawn with exaggerated breasts or butts, and how the main superhero in this world is called Population Control Johnny. I honestly don't know how this show ended up on the Hub, nor why they decided to promote it alongside the likes of Pound Puppies or Friendship is Magic. To me at least, Dan vs. didn't belong on the Hub, but again, that's a topic for another day. Today we're here to talk about how Dan vs. stood out from the crowd, and boy did it ever. With the exception of maybe Transformers Prime, no show on the Hub was this adult. Now don't get me wrong, it's not like South Park or Drawn Together where it'd be bad for kids to watch, or if they did watch it they wouldn't get half of the things going on, but there are enough things in here where I'd say it's not for the younger audience. That's not to say it's not great. It really is. Honestly, it's one of my top 10 favorite shows of all time, animated or otherwise. But it's not for the Hub's audience. So I kinda wonder why it got stuck on there. But I'm glad it did. I think because it was surrounded by all these, let's be honest, bright, happy, cheery shows, it was able to stand out and be something special. To this day, it's got an extremely devoted fan base. And it's no wonder why it does. It takes what could have very easily been a Formula of the Week show that repeats the same episode template over and over again to the point where they don't have to put any effort into it, but that's not what happened. Everyone behind it cared very deeply about it, from the writers, the animators, to even the voice actors. It's a shame that Dan vs. didn't last very long. It's one of those shows that has such a loose premise that honestly, you could go on forever. There are millions of other things that Dan could get angry at. Off the top of my head, musical theater, bad sequels, football, New Jersey, Elise, con artists, the dry cleaners, the unemployment office, the airport, the doctor, and Monaco. The characters are flexible enough to make these premises work, but they're also sturdy enough to make them plausible and fit within the show. Oh well, that's wishful thinking. We may always want more and think about what might have been or could have been, but that will never change the fact that as it stands, Dan vs. was truly a diamond in the rough. Well folks, thanks for watching the video. What'd you think of it? Do you like Dan vs. and are you like me where you don't hate Elise? Comment below and let me know because I'm always excited to hear what you guys have to say. Thank you all for watching and I'll see you guys next time.